Aquaman number 3, written by Jeff Johns, art by Ivan Race. We last left off with Aquaman coming across these big sharp-toothed fish creature things and starting a fight with them all. This issue picks up back in Aquaman's youth. His father is standing at the end of the pier, looking out at the sunset, just like, oh, Jenny, I wish you could see him. He's so smart, and, you know, that general gist, but talking to Aquaman's mother. And I was like, hey, Dad, did you see what you were looking for this time? And he's like, oh, nope, but I made a promise to come out here every sunrise in case you ever wanted to come back. And he's like, you sure she's even out there? And he's like, well, you never know. The ocean's a big place. There's stuff that you've never seen before out there as we get back into the fight scene with the sharp-tooth things. So Aquaman is just having his ass handed to him by this head, like the Alpha, I guess I'd say. He tries using his mental powers on the Alpha to control it, but the Alpha just roars back and then bites Aquaman through his armor, which, as we saw with the lesser ones, was not a thing that could happen. We got to Mera. Mera's just throwing water around everywhere, taking him out one by one. As Aquaman's like, all right, what are you? Tell me, like, where'd you come from? Where'd you go? And as it keeps on trying to bite him, Aquaman's like, no, stop it. No more biting. No more eating. Just not up here. These people are protected. And it grabs Aquaman by his entire head, throws him across the pier, and then does this weird, like, bioluminescent glow thing, which I guess signals to all the remaining things, the sharp-tooth things, that it's time to go home as the sun is rising. One of them, as they dive in, I think it's actually the Alpha, says, save us. So God only knows what that means. And Aquaman's ready to give chase, but they're like, okay, Aquaman, just stay here for a second, because we're still not entirely sure what we're dealing with here. Apparently they sound like seals. I'm just going to throw that out there, because that has not been my mental sound at all, but apparently they sound like seals. So anyway, they ask Aquaman, like, Aquaman, do you know what those things were? And he's like, I had no clue. And he's like, don't you live down there? He's like, I live in a lighthouse, dude. And the other guy's like, yeah, Atlantis isn't even a real place. Of course he doesn't live down there. And Aquaman's trying to take charge. He's like, look, we need to secure the shoreline. And he's like, Aquaman, we already are. We're keeping our guys out of the water. We're going to shoot if we see anything move. And they're like, you don't want to shoot into the water. There might still be people there. And it's like, if there are people there, they're dead because of these things. And Aquaman walks over to this cocoon thing that they pulled out of the water last time, and he cracks it open. Everyone's got their guns drawn, ready to go. And we see inside is just a perfectly fine and healthy, if not a little bit scared, dog. Just there. And everyone's like, oh, it's the sheriff, or that's Janet Reed's dog. I don't know who Janet Reed is, but apparently they're familiar with the dog. So it starts barking. We see that there is one more surviving thing that was trapped under some rubble. It's trying to crawl its way out. One of them just unloads a pistol shot in the head, which I guess is enough to put it down. And they're like, all right, cool. They came from somewhere really deep, and I have someone who may know what's up, but I'm going to need to take this to show it to him. And they're like, look, Aquaman, we know your intentions are good, but I think it's, you're Aquaman. Let the people who actually know what they're doing. And don't worry. When it comes time for us to share this story with the public, like, we'll put you in a good light. We'll say that Aquaman actually helped somebody. And Aquaman's like, all right. And he picks up the corpse and then just dives. Or actually, I think he flies away. It looks like he flies, or at least jumps really high. So he goes away to some house out on a beach. And Mera's like, I'm sorry if they pissed you off. He's like, no, I'm not pissed at them. But, like, I didn't ever want to have to come here again. This guy, when I first started showing my abilities as a young child, my dad brought me to this guy, and he helped me control them. And then he tried to kill me because I didn't take him to Atlantis. So they got some bad blood between them. We see inside how he's a scientist. He has a whole bunch of, like, books and stuff like that, but he's also, like, clearly not doing so well right now. He's left the sink to pile up, and he's got, like, the cutouts of newspapers everywhere. And he comes to the door, and his name is Dr. Stephen Shin, I believe. It's Dr. Shin for sure. I'm not sure about Stephen, but anyway, he sees Aquaman's at the door, and he's like, hey, Arthur, what are you here for? And he's like, I'm not here for anything between us. Just take a look at this thing and tell me where it came from. And so he starts analyzing it, and Shin makes the comment like, hey, you still have that trident. You know that thing's going to bring trouble. And Aquaman's like, just tell me about the creature. And he does some analysis, which is actually very in-depth, and I found it extremely interesting. But basically comes down to, like, because they have bioluminescence and because they're carnivorous, he makes the deduction of, like, how much of its own body weight it has to feed on per day based off of its saliva having a slight paralytic to it, and based off the gills having certain traces of minerals encrusted on it. You can say that it's a deep vent, like lives around the deep vents in the ocean. And he makes the deduction like these things are a completely new branch of evolution. They are unseen in any regard. It's not a missing link. It's a totally new thing. And they live down in the Marianas Trench. So, yeah. But then he immediately turns all excited because he's like, this is going to be what saves my career. I can show this off and they'll finally take me seriously. This will get my credibility back. And Aquaman's like, sorry, you can't keep this thing. He's like, wait, hold on. No, you can't just take that. And he's like, bye, Shin. And Shin's all pissed off and he's begging to just know where Atlantis is as Arthur dives into the sea. And Mara's like, who was that guy? And he's like, well, he could be a very dangerous man, but right now he's just pathetic. So Aquaman and Mera dive down into the sea, deep, deep, deep into the trench, and they're like, well, I don't know why they strayed from their normal resting place of the trench. Maybe they're dying off, maybe they need more food, but regardless, they're just trying to survive, as are we, as they go into the blackness. I really enjoyed this. Like I said, there's no real part of this that I disliked. The Shin stuff was very interesting. I liked the fight scene at the beginning. It didn't feel like it was ever just, and then they punched some more. It felt like everything was for a purpose, and it definitely didn't feel like Aquaman at any point had the upper hand. I'm starting to get a little bit over the everyone treats Aquaman like a joke thing, especially in this situation where he was like, sure, he didn't actually take out the threat, but he was still the only one that was defending you guys, especially Mera. But like, whatever. I guess they have to ride that joke at least for the arc, and I'm willing to accept that. Overall, I'll give this one a 7.5. Art, fantastic. The only thing that's really keeping it from anything higher is the fact that it doesn't feel that big, Like, they set up a couple things like, the trident, he may come for it. Okay, fine, but it doesn't feel like anything in this particular arc is going to be that incredible now. It's literally just the threat left and we have to be proactive. Where do we go? And that's basically what the issue is summed up. So yeah, 7.5, which is still extremely good, but it would have been higher if it was just felt more big instead of all right, well, we're just going to keep going to where the story is. So yeah, I did like it though. So take that for what it's worth.